Welcome back. A good marriage doesn't mean spouses agree on everything, but different views on budgeting can lead to problems that a husband and wife might not expect. MoneyWise guru Michael DeGroot is here this morning with some tips on how to win the budget battle with a reluctant spouse. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, what have you found in your study here that can help out?
Well, first off, you understand budgeting is really important for a family, because if you are not controlling your money often ends up controlling you,
right,
and can cause a lot of problems and give people a lot of stress as well. I mean, matter of fact, there was this survey that found that 23% of Americans say that they're struggling financially, and that 23% say they suffer, 38% say they're struggling, and only about 39% say they're thriving. A lot of numbers there, but the fact is there's a lot of struggling, a lot of stress out there over financial issues, and that's budgeting.
Yeah, and that graphic tells me that we haven't yet figured it out.
No. and sometimes one spouse will figure it out before the other, and usually there's some kind of like big life-changing thing that happens, like
right,
a new baby on the way, or maybe a job or something. And so what do you do when only one spouse wants to budget? Well,
yeah.
I'm not asking you, but
I'm asking you.
But I'll answer. One of the things you can do is, first off, you don't want to start lecturing the other person.
Yeah.
You might just start by doing the little things that you can do. Let's say, for example, you want to save money on cable, but your spouse likes cable. Well, don't go canceling the cable. Call the cable company up. Try to negotiate a lower price. That way you're both happy. Or maybe start taking your own lunches to work, that kind of thing. You don't have to force the other person to do what you want right away.
And what do you do when someone has disinterest in that, but you need them to be interested?
Well, you want to come together. One of the things you can do is you can have a conversation with them, but you have to make it non-threatening. So you might have like an imaginary sort of situation, like, what would you do if you could spend all the money you wanted? What 5 things would you buy? And talk with them, and that way you learn what their values are, and you can talk about what 5 things you would buy, and talk about the similarities and the differences, and then you're talking about money, and then might lead into talking about financial goals where you can work together to go that direction. And
then you can both come to the conclusion that the kids are bleeding you dry.
The kids do bleed you dry. This is accurate, but which one bleeds the most, you can decide and work on that.
It's such a divisive thing in a relationship, and yet you flip-flop it, and if you do the finances together, it can work in just the opposite and strengthen your relationship.
You can bring your kids in and help them understand too. For example, you can take your budget, how much money you get a month, give them play money and say, okay, let's pay the bills, and have them pay out each the bills and let them see how much money you have at the end of the month or not. And that might open their eyes a little bit to how rich they think you are.
Absolutely. That's a great idea. Thank you, Michael. Good to have you here. You can read much more from the mind of Michael DeGroot at national.deseretnews.com. Always interesting. From money to monks now, monasteries around the country are having a hard time staying open because there simply aren't enough monks to keep them running. Carol Makita takes us inside the challenges facing a monastery in Huntsville, Utah.
You find God here because you bring Him with you. I knew where I was going in life ever since I was 11 years old. That's the grace of God, It's a special grace,
For the last 64 years, Father Patrick has worked and prayed at the monastery in Huntsville.
The monastery represents the ultimate dedication. It came in 1950, and life has been getting better ever since.
Living vows of poverty and obedience, of chastity, stability, and a conversion of life. He and the other monks wake up at 3:15 each day at the Abbey of Our Lady of the Holy Trinity. They pray 7 times a day, run the bookshop, and look after the 1,800 acres of land.
We used to pick up 50,000 bales of hay by hand out here, And we had a dairy herd, we had a beef herd, we had 10,000 chickens, we sold bread, we had all these different industries.
But the monks aren't as young as they used to be. Their average age, 84.
But all I can do is sweep the floor now, wash the dishes.
The monastery once housed more than 80 monks. Now there are 10.
Higher authority isn't letting us accept any more new men. They don't feel as though we can train them properly.
I'll make it $6 for this.
Now items in the bookstore are 50% off. It will likely be empty by October.
Naturally, this is the last of our industries, and I have to look ahead to the ultimate closing of the monastery.
The challenges are characteristic, he says, of many monasteries, especially in Europe and North America.
Our Canadian houses are suffering the same way we are, and a number of them are in danger of being closed.
The few remaining monks would have to relocate to other monasteries across the country. But Father Patrick says he'd rather stay.
In that cemetery. My bags are all packed. I'm ready to go.
For neighbors,
this is this year's wheat crop.
Shuttering the monastery would bring a loss of serenity.
It's really a wildlife blessing. That's what I worry about.
That will be
a loss of peace.
It's just sad. It's sad because I think we're extremely blessed to be living next to this. All the prayers that go to heaven.
A loss of rejuvenation.
There's no hubbub, there's no cell phones ringing, there's nothing. And anybody can walk into the chapel, you can easily stroll the grounds and just sit and just be.
And the loss of a good neighbor.
They were always there for us, and anything would go wrong, they would come and spend time, and it was, just a pleasure to grow up next to this.
Whether they stay or go, the message Father Patrick gives to others is one of
HOPE. It was something, it was the key for me. The hope, absolutely essential. So don't lose hope. Jesus says, I'm the Alpha and the Omega, I'm the beginning and the end. He's in control of everything in between there too. Keep our eye on Jesus, that's the answer.
Carol Makita reporting the fate of the monastery will be decided in negotiations over the next 2 years. 2/3 of the monks would have to vote in favor of leaving, but leaders of their order could override the monks' vote. We'll keep you posted. Next, honoring heroes of World War II. Meet a man who was a force both at war and at home. Plus, a group of U.S. Army nurses and medics stranded behind enemy lines. Their compelling true story of their rescue when the Deseret News National Edition continues.